Hello and welcome to beautiful Kirkland, Washington. We're here at Bungie Studios, and I've got Lars Bakken at my side here, who's here to tell us a bit about Halo 3 ODST competitive multiplayer. So how does that work, Lars? It comes with a separate bonus disc, right?
That's correct. It comes with a second disc, which we just describe as the Halo 3 complete multiplayer experience. And what that has is every single map that's ever been released for Halo 3, so all 21 maps, and then we have 3 brand new ones, so the total is 24, and those 3 new maps are Heretic, Longshore, and Citadel.
Okay, let's talk about those maps. Heretic is it's a bit of a remake of a classic Halo 2 map, right?
Yes, Heretic is a remake of Midship from Halo 2, which is something that fans have been asking for basically since Halo 3 launched. And as opposed to something like Blackout, which was kind of a spiritual remake, I guess, of Lockout, Heretic is really, we tried to keep it as close as possible. There are going to be minor differences, I'm sure fans will notice, but to the best of our abilities, we tried to make it as close to the same as Midship as we possibly could.
Do you expect for this to be a similar type of experience as Halo 2, or do all the new game modes for Halo 3 add like a whole new layer to it?
They definitely add a new layer. I mean, I think the game has changed. I wouldn't say significantly, but there's been a lot of things that were added between Halo 2 and Halo 3, like equipment, for example. So Heretic has equipment where Midship never would have had something like that. So that does change things up. So, those kinds of changes actually make Heretic play differently than Midship ever did.
So let's talk about some of those new maps now. Citadel, you were saying that the fans were clamoring for this arena-style, small, symmetrical map. Can you tell us what the fans are asking for and what you delivered with Citadel?
Sure. I think really when we looked at our full roster of maps, we realized that there were something that the fans wanted, and something that we realized internally was that there weren't a lot of these really small maps. Something like Guardian, for example, which is still easily our probably most played map in Halo 3, and they wanted, the professional gamers, but everyone, the community was clamoring for a new kind of small symmetric map. And so, we're delivering Heretic, which is awesome, but then Citadel is a brand new experience, and we took inspiration from the Halo 3 campaign, and it's actually Forerunner architecture, and we made it into this rotationally symmetrical small map, which actually plays really cool.
What sort of game modes benefit the most from this type of map?
Absolutely Team Slayer, but multi-flag is really fun as well, because each team kind of has this really cool base on their side of the map, but it's open and there are multiple routes in. It just plays really well for that game type as well.
I noticed while I was playing, there's no real fancy bells or whistles to it. It's a pretty straightforward map. How does that affect the gameplay?
I think it basically is a stripped down, real nuts and bolts multiplayer Slayer map. There's nothing fancy going on in that map. It is just geometry, weapons, really cool jumps. There's a lot of really neat ways to get around the environment, and that was all built in on purpose to make sure there were ways for normal people to go, and then like the pro guys who really like to do crazy jumps, there's a lot of that in there for them as well.
So now on the complete opposite side of that is Longshore, which is a much larger asymmetrical map. Definitely favors the sort of like one flag CTF scenarios. Can you tell us about Longshore?
Sure. Longshore is, once again, when we looked at our entire roster of maps, we realized one thing we were missing is something on the scale of, or rather, something in the same vein of High Ground or Last Resort, which was the remake of Zanzibar. And we wanted to make something even bigger than that. So that's where Longshore came from. It takes place in New Mombasa, so it's right down on the water, as the name implies, and it allowed the artists to really stretch their legs and try something a little bit different. It actually has a different feel, I think, than a lot of the other maps in Halo 3, simply because of where it takes place.
Can you describe the ins and outs of this level? The defending team base is especially interesting because there's a few different ways to get in, steal that flag, and it's got some dynamic elements too.
Right. There's one major dynamic element, which is there's a telescoping bridge. So the map is divided into basically, I would say, 3 parts. There's the defender side, which is this tall building. There's the central wall, which has multiple ways to go through, and then there's the attacker building on the other side. And there are multiple ways to kind of go through that wall in the center. But one of the really cool ways is if you hit that telescoping bridge, and the switch is actually controlled into the defender's building. Once you hit that, it gives you a direct route right to where the flag or the bomb point spawns, like if you were playing a one-sided assault. And that's really cool. So you want to defend as well as you can that switch point, and once that's hit, there's another route for the attackers to come in. So it really kind of changes the dynamic once that happens for the defenders.
Is this a big enough map for vehicles to be on there?
Yeah, actually, we have ghosts on there by default, and if you wanted to, you could, drive a Warthog around. We don't have those in there by default, but I believe you can forge it up and put those in there. There may be some other vehicles in there too, but the ghosts, the size and the routes really work well for the ghosts.
So it looks good, Lars. When should we expect to see ODST in stores?
So ODST drops September 22nd.
Thank you very much, Lars. There you go, Halo 3 ODST. Stay tuned for more.